The end of autumn is one of the most depressing times of the year. The foliage withers away and the cool breezes turn to harsh, painful knives. But through it all, one consolation appears. Thanksgiving. A day of thanks with our friends and family as we try to suppress depression for the long winter ahead. What makes Thanksgiving Thanksgiving? The food. But how accurate is the food to the tale? How did the holiday come to be? Most importantly, how will it look in the future?
Welcome to Spoonable Standpoint, the podcast where your hosts, Leo and Charlene, dig into food culture. In this episode, we'll talk about how Thanksgiving food has come to be a part of the tradition and how accurate it is. Later, we'll discuss the American tradition's future. How can it evolve further? Has it already? How has COVID affected the tradition? But first, how did the food come to be?
Thanksgiving has always had its controversies. Most children in America were told the story of a peaceful feast between the starving pilgrims and highlighted the kindness the Native Americans at Plymouth showed. For the past few years, the story has been put into a larger perspective of European terror and conquest in the Americas, and the seemingly harmless story marks the beginning of a terrible era in world history.
But although the story is discussed, what rarely is discussed is how the Thanksgiving foods came to be. In modern America, Thanksgiving is celebrated by about 85% of the U.S. population, which is a staggering percentage. And for many people, the story doesn't matter, since the best part of Thanksgiving isn't the thanks or the giving, but rather the food.
Modern Thanksgiving has some resemblance to the first Thanksgiving, but is drastically different in many regards. Firstly, a Thanksgiving turkey is the most iconic part of the annual feast, and for some, their favorite part. But how accurate is it?
Well, in a journal entry from Pilgrim Edward Winslow, he says how 4 men were sent to get fowl, and although that isn't necessarily turkey, it might be. In 1621, wild turkey was plentiful in the region, and although Winslow never said which specific birds were caught, there is a chance that one of them was turkey. But what about mashed potatoes?
Potatoes of any kind are most definitely not historically accurate. Potatoes, although native to the Americas, were not grown in the Plymouth area, and the Pilgrims had no way of getting any. What may have been at the first feast was Indian turnips, which is as close as you can get, although may not have actually been there. Were there any desserts? Not really. Although they had some ingredients to make pies, neither the Pilgrims nor the Native Americans cooked any pies or types of desserts. Plus, the sugar supply that the Pilgrims brought over was not enough to put into pies and bake.
So, what did they have at the first Thanksgiving? Seafood. New England was and is abundant in mussels, lobsters, and other shellfish, so it was obvious to the feasters that shellfish would be on the menu, since it was the easiest protein to get. Corn dishes were also one of the most abundant dishes served, since the Native Americans had lots of it.
But how has the holiday come to be? George Washington in 1789 called for a day of thanks and prayer, and Abraham Lincoln announced the last Thursday of November to be a day of thanks. Although legislation was passed to make Thanksgiving a national holiday, the day was always controlled by the president until 1840, when the holiday was legally placed on the last Thursday on November each year.
But although Thanksgiving is an old tradition, new changes might change it. How has the food industry been affected? How has COVID affected it? But most importantly, where is it going in the future?
I think when we discuss the future of Thanksgiving, we need to take into account a few things about Thanksgiving and the holiday in general. First thing, it's a tradition, which means that there are a lot of things that you can't really change about it without not people getting mad, but people feeling alienated. The whole point of Thanksgiving is for people to be together and be able to bond by giving thanks to loved ones. And I think if you drastically change that experience, it can become something very different for many people. So a few things you need to keep about it is the fact that food is served. Like, that's like number one. Food has continuously been shown to make people feel comforted, and it's a great way to express your love for people and how much people mean to you, especially with Thanksgiving food. Like, okay, if you make like breakfast for people, it's like, okay, you made breakfast for me. Eggs take like 2 minutes to cook at most. But Thanksgiving, it's like you make a turkey, you got to go out and get a turkey. And then you need to marinate it, and then you need to put it in an oven, and you need to baste it. You do all this stuff while you're also doing mashed potatoes. In every single movie that has Thanksgiving, there's always somebody rushing around like, I have so much to do, I can't talk. You know, the turkey's burning. And I think keeping that food element is essential. Because otherwise the tradition is lost. I think another thing that you need to keep, the fact that it's about giving thanks. That seems kind of obvious, but I feel like, at least for me, that part has kind of been lost. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that the giving thanks is an important part of Thanksgiving, or is it just kind of like something that isn't necessarily the biggest part of it?
Well, we have a food podcast. The biggest part for me is the food. But I don't think giving thanks was necessarily lost. My family, before we eat, we've always went around and said what we're thankful for. It still shows that, the tradition is still around, and it's still called Thanksgiving. And even maybe for some people, it's an excuse to, see family and eat at this point, and being less about, being thankful. There isn't really much else to focus on. It's not really a holiday where you're getting gifts or celebrating a really, really important person or something else like that. You're literally just eating a big feast, which we often do on other big situations. It's just that some foods are maybe specific to Thanksgiving, and that this day is basically what it's for. It's just gathering around and eating a big meal. So, I don't think it's lost completely.
So, Charlene, I have a question for you. Not about, Thanksgiving holiday, but about the food specifically. Do you think that the Thanksgiving food can be evolved further? Not in terms of making the turkey super fancy, but do you think that there is room for change in what is served?
Of course, definitely. As with everything, there's room for improvement and change. But like you were saying before, it's a tradition. For example, most people I've talked to don't like turkey. Even my family. When we go to Thanksgiving, most people don't like the turkey. I just don't like turkey in general and would rather have something else. Yet every year, we're serving a turkey, spending hours cooking it in the oven and all that. So it's that doesn't really make sense. And the only reason I can explain it is because that's just the tradition. That's just how it is. So, of course, there's room to change and grow. I don't think that a lot of people would be willing to make that change. But I do also know some people who kind of disregard the food traditions, which I definitely am totally on board with that. They use Thanksgiving, like I was mentioning before, as just a reason for, the entire family to come together and enjoy a really big meal together. And they'd eat whatever food they want. They just cook whatever food. And of course it was still a big feast, but you wouldn't see things like turkey, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, cranberry sauce like we see in a, quote, traditional American Thanksgiving.
I agree with you fully. And going back to what you said about how different people will have different things than other people, a few Thanksgivings ago, my family was like, we're not going to have Thanksgiving like normal. As you said, no one likes turkey. Okay, I'm sorry if you like turkey, but don't lie to yourself. You do not like turkey. Turkey is not good. It is like, I don't know. No one can cook it properly. And if they do, it's like the butter does like 900% of the work. But anyway, we were like, we don't want to do this. So my dad's Italian, and he said, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna get a bunch of Italian food, and we're gonna eat. We're gonna have an Italian Thanksgiving, and that was one of the best Thanksgivings I've ever had, because although like turkey and mashed potatoes is very very classic. I mean, I shouldn't say mashed potatoes. I'm also Irish, so mashed potatoes are like 90% of my diet. But turkey never resonated with me. It never made me feel like at home. It always felt like something like detached from normal everyday. But being able to have like prosciutto and pesto definitely made Thanksgiving feel more personal, and it made it feel more like it was worth celebrating rather than it being just like a day to eat something that I never really eat. And last year, my family, none of us could go out and have Thanksgiving with people because we were so scared. COVID, no one was vaccinated. But my family, just my immediate family, we did a small Thanksgiving, and I cooked everything. And it was, regular Thanksgiving. You had turkey, you had mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, cornbread, whatever. But it was all done in a way where it felt more homely. And I think that's what Thanksgiving is starting to become. Like, I did not cook a whole turkey. I was not going to do that. So we just got like a turkey breast. And it was way better. It tasted way better than a full turkey would. And from then on, I was like, this is the way to go. Like, putting in all this labor for kind of nothing feels tedious and silly. Whereas putting in as much love and care as you want to and you can, where it still feels like it's a part of you, I think is really important, and a part of Thanksgiving that should not be lost, especially in the food.
Definitely, yeah. And now that you mentioned COVID, it's actually pretty interesting to see how it has affected Thanksgiving. Experts are now saying that this year's Thanksgiving is going to be expensive. It's going to be very expensive, especially compared to years before. If you live in America, as many of you know, turkey is used in a lot of things because before it was really cheap to get. So, of course, you have like turkey sandwiches and turkey burgers, and just turkey outside of Thanksgiving context generally had a little bit of a positive context because people perceived it as more healthy than red meat. So they saw it as an alternative, which led to, a lot of companies buying and using a lot of turkey. But now that since there's a shortage of basically everything and every step of the turkey producing process, all the way from the food, the transport, the space, every single step is a lot more expensive, which is raising prices of turkey pretty much everywhere. So now that I think about it, this might be kind of an urge for more people to be like, you know what? Yeah, turkey kind of sucks. And hopefully the other foods follow, because I feel like we're missing out on so many opportunities by just sticking to the same traditional foods every Thanksgiving.
Something that we continuously bring up on Spoonable Standpoint is convenience. Everything we talk about, we're like, here's why it's so great, and it's always convenience. Convenience is what makes a lot of things great, especially in America. Thanksgiving is one of those things that is not convenient. It is not convenient to buy a whole turkey. If you ever have tried to haul a turkey from a grocery store, it's not fun. Cooking a turkey is not fun. Even like carving a turkey and eating a turkey is not that much fun. And having to make everything else is just not fun. But recently, a lot of companies have tried to take the pressure off of people. And I doubt it's, to be nice, probably just to make money. Definitely to make money. But I think that's a really smart tactic. For example, I'm sure you've heard about this, but Popeyes, this Thanksgiving, and I think the last Thanksgiving too, they're selling whole turkeys. They're not deep fried. They're like legit turkeys cooked in, the Cajun spice or whatever. And you can just buy one. And it makes things so much easier. You don't have to make a turkey. You can just buy one from a place that you trust to make good food. And I think things like that are what might become of Thanksgiving. Just because when things get more convenient and it does well, other companies follow suit. And the moment you have like 6 companies that you can buy a cooked turkey from with ease, then it's going to become something that's going to start to transition the tradition. So my question to you, Charlene, is, do you think that takes the point out of Thanksgiving? Do you think convenience hinders the Thanksgiving experience?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, I would say so because I don't know. At least in my family and what a lot of other people have told me and would have heard is that, cooking the meal is a lot of what it's all about. Like I keep saying, it's about the food and being able to and bond together, but a big part of what we're bonding over is the cooking. It's like we all put in so much effort to cook all of this. Let's just enjoy it all together. So I feel like just buying a freshly prepared turkey and all the sides and stuff would be kind of defeating a little bit of the purpose. Although, again, I don't think that it should be that way. Like, if you can save so much time and energy just by buying a whole turkey and just enjoying it together, that probably is pretty good, then I say why not go for it. Like, you're still gonna be all together, and it's still gonna be a nice gathering and, an opportunity for everyone to talk. But I'm not necessarily sure how it is for everyone else. But, I mean, like Boston Market, I walked past it, like, near Thanksgiving or, like, on Thanksgiving before, and there was huge lines. So I don't know if it's just us, but I do think that for at least some people, just buying like a whole turkey and like not having to do any work would be destroying the purpose of Thanksgiving just a little. But I mean, I hear from so many people how hard it is to prepare, that many dishes in like one day, and how hard it is to clean it up just to eat, just to spend like half an hour eating. So it's like, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's that worth it. So I do think that, it would make sense. But it really just depends on our perception, and because of the fact that it's a holiday, it's kind of hard to change.
And not only that, but it's like in like the worst position in the year. Like, everyone's grumpy because the seasons are changing. Like, a few weeks ago, it was like light when I got home, and now when I get home at 5 o'clock, it's like pitch black, and it sucks. So it sucks that we have to like give thanks in a time where we're all like, we don't feel thankful at all. And it's also like right before December, which is when a lot of very, very big holidays in America are. And with those holidays, you also cook a lot and you prepare a lot of meals. So if it was like in like August, which would be a terrible time to eat a turkey, but if it was in August, it would be like, okay, I have a few months to do this. But with Thanksgiving, it's like, no, I have to do this in like less than a month. So I feel like that might also, if there are more convenient things that come around, people might be like, for Christmas or Hanukkah, I'm going to cook something. I don't want to cook anything for Thanksgiving. Let's just get a Popeye's turkey. That just might be me. Maybe it's my laziness. And I think it really depends on person to person. Like you said, you might want to make your own thing because it shows how much love you put into something. At the same time, you might want to, if there's something you are bad at cooking or don't want to cook, you can get it. And I think that's kind of the point of, the Popeye's turkey and all that stuff, to kind of be like, if you don't want to make turkey, here's something. I don't think it's a way to be like, no, you have to do this. We're going to make sure that no one's cooking turkey next Thanksgiving and only buying from us.
You can already tell by now that I'm not really a big fan of the traditional Thanksgiving, even though it's a chance to eat some pretty good food. There are so many ways it can be improved. But at the end of the day, I don't think it will change much because, like we were saying since the beginning, it's a tradition. The future of it is probably looking at the past.
looking at nostalgic memories that people had during Thanksgiving. I mean, if you think about it, this tradition and this holiday is hundreds of years old. And if traditions can stick like this for that long throughout so many events, I definitely think it's one that is here to stay, just as it is.
No matter how much you love or hate Thanksgiving and its components, the tradition in America is here to stay because food is one of the purest ways to express love. Plus, food is the ultimate comfort to all humans, and being able to eat surrounded by loved ones is the greatest happiness of all. Whether or not the food is homemade, the same feeling is always created. So is Thanksgiving here to stay? For the foreseeable future, it most definitely is.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Spoonable Standpoint. This is our last episode of the season, so we'd like to thank all of our listeners for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at spoonable_standpoint for our latest updates, link to our website, and other bonus content. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it. We release a new season in 2022, and we hope to see you there.